Hello, everybody. My name is Jeff Polina, and I am one of the success team members here at BigTime. Today, we will be covering the project management webinar. And just to give you a brief overview of what we will be covering today is going to be the setup of tasks, the setup of types and statuses, as well as creating fee and hourly budgets for those tasks, and managing the task workflow within the task manager. Um, and you know, before I get started, some of the verbiage within your site just might be a little bit different. So tasks in your site, it might be called phases, engagements, or to-dos. And whatever the verbiage may be, that they all function the same way within your site. Okay, so before I jump into creating these tasks, there is a little bit of project setup. So I'm just going to jump into a project I have already created. So I'm going to go to my company, client list, and once again, for just the verbiage within your site, you might have an engagement list, a job list, a project list. But just to reiterate once again, they do function just the same way in your big time site. So I'm just going to jump into AWC Consulting. And anytime you do need to add a task, you want to click your task tab. And from the overview status screen, you do not have the functionality of adding a task, so you always want to select editor. From here, you do have the ability of adding a task just from the screen, or you also have the option of adding a task towards the lower portion of your screen. So if I select add task, I am just going to put, um, let's put consulting. I am going to select, actually, so from here, you actually can add your task type. I'm going to brush over types for now, just because I'm going to elaborate a little bit further in the later portion of the webinar. Um, and you also have the ability of selecting a status once you actually select your type. You can also assign these tasks out to specific individuals. So if you really want to restrict what people can track time against on their timesheet, you do want to assign these out. And just keep in mind that an unassigned task does have, that unassigned task is actually universally accessible to the whole team of the project or client. In addition to that, you do have the functionality of actually adding a due date. When I do select this due date and I have all my fields entered, you do have a few more options towards the lower portion of your screen. So if I click this triangle, have the ability of just adding the task, can add new, add copy, or add edit. I'm going to select add edit because it will bring up some additional options. So from our general info screen, we do have the client, our task name, our type, as well as the current status of not started, in process, under review, admin, complete, or archived. In addition to that, we have the myself, who I assign the task out to, our priority of high, medium, or low, as well as the enable time and expense entry. So this time and expense entry for fee and expense, it will be available to be selected on your timesheet and your expense portion if you do in fact have tasks enabled for your expense entry. Fee only will only be available on your timesheet, and expense only will be only available on your actual expense entry screen. Below that, we have any notes specifically pertaining to this task. So it just helps for a brief description of the work that's transpiring for this task. And below that, we also have the ability of marking expenses as non-billable. So let's just say, you want to be able to have your staffers track against the task, but not have that information or that time be available in your WIP to be invoiced. That's where you're going to want to check this box. And below that, I added a custom field. I just named it additional label. You could really just customize this however you see fit. So if I add in, if I click add edit custom field, you can add in any type of field that you'd like. And I just want to briefly discuss these field types. So if you click this pencil icon, you do have the ability of selecting different field types. So string is alphanumeric, integer is number, double is more than one, currency, percentages, you have your date, which will pull up a calendar, Boolean is a yes or no toggle, and lookup will create your own drop-down menu. In addition to that, you have your hot link. So If you were to select link, you could create a hot link specifically to a Google Drive document, or also, let's just say, like a Dropbox doc. So you do have that functionality. Okay. In addition to the add, edit, custom fields, you also have a log. So you can really see who came in to the actual tasks and maybe made an edit, who created it, and specifically also at what time. Okay, so from here, I am going to move to the budget and dates tab. Budget and dates are obviously important because you just have different timelines for each of your tasks within the scope of your work. So from here, I am going to enter a start date of tomorrow, and let's just say I want this done on the 2nd of April. We have an hourly budget. Let's just say I think this should take about 48 hours to complete. I am going to jump into the fee budget now. And the fee budget is just going to be the dollar amount for the specific task. And also keep in mind, for people out there doing any fixed fee billing, this is going to be the amount you're going to bill your client. So just to keep in mind that these tasks do correlate as line items for any fixed fee billing. Okay, and next to that, we also have our expense budget. And this is just so you do not exceed the dollar amount for your expenses. Uh, and you don't have to utilize this, but the reason for this option is because it really gives you some great drill down metrics. And like I mentioned, it's not required, but definitely there is an option if you choose to utilize it. Okay. Below that, we have our percent complete. Our percent complete will populate when we do any fixed fee billing for this task. So for my people up there doing progressive billing or percent complete, if you bill for a task for 50%, if you were to click into this portion after you create that invoice, that 50% will be populated in this portion. And if you bill for 100%, that task will be archived. And an archived task will pretty much closes the task out, making it unavailable for people to track time again. So that's just something to really keep in mind. Okay, so definitely, once you hit your budget, you do want to make sure that you archive your task. Okay, I am going to move to the accounting tab now. This accounting tab is only available for people who have the QuickBooks integration enabled in their site. So you have the ability of actually linking these to a specific service item. So what this is going to do, if you link this to a service item, within your QuickBooks, you can have that service item then attached to a chart of accounts. And this is pretty much going to be able to say on the back end where you want that revenue stream to hit for that task and to really just direct that into your chart of accounts in your QuickBooks. Below that, you do have the ability of selecting a class for this task. And, this selecting a task is really just going to help tie into grouping and reporting within your QuickBooks. Okay, below that, we also have custom invoice settings. So we have a new feature where you can pretty much create mixed billing on an invoice where you can include T&M line items, you can include fixed fee items on an invoice as well as a retainer, all within a single invoice. So if you have those specific tasks and those specific billing types, you do have the functionality of choosing your time and materials per your task. You can select a milestone billing, which is just going to be the full amount of that fee budget. And you do have percent complete. So for any people doing the progressive or percent complete billing. And you also have retainer billing. So if I select retainer billing, and let's just say you need to pay $500 a month to retain my services. So if you had that selected, when you do that fixed fee billing and you pull up this client, that $500 is going to populate each time on that invoice, and you do have the ability to select or deselect that. Okay. And in addition to that, you do have the ability of having a non-billable fee type for your actual task. Okay. So from here, anytime you do make those changes within your task, you obviously just want to select save. And that was just really adding a task from the actual add edit screen. You do have the functionality of, adding it just from the editor screen, as you can see here. So if I were just to type in, let's just say example one. I can also select my type. I can enter my fee budget from this screen. enter how many hours it should take, as well as enter the due date, and assign that out to my staffers. And it's really just, you have the ability of adding a task from the lower portion or right here, and this is really more of what you're comfortable with. Okay, so that is just adding a flat task. Let's get into actually adding some subtasks. So let's just say for this example, we're going to put construction. Actually, you know what? Let's stick with actually my consulting example. So we have a flat task of consulting, but if I go into typing in consulting one more time, once I select save, I can get into adding a subtask. And the way I did that is I just click those three dots to the right. So I have my main group of consulting, but there are a few just different steps in consulting. So we can do our kickoff, our pre-plan, our initial meeting, and from there, let's just put a conclusion and wrap up. Okay, so as you can see, we have our main consulting group and then the subtasks below. If I were to add in any type of fee budget, it's all going to wrap up into the main task. So as you can see, my 500 is adding to that 1,000, and it will do so as I move down the line for these tasks. Okay, so in addition to that, you can enter your different hourly budgets, and here I'm just for example purposes, I'm just going to add some hours. Okay, and from here, you can add your specific due dates as well as assign these out. So that's just the run through of a flat task and a group with your subtask. And let's get into adding a reoccurring task. And a word of caution, so if you're going to be budgeting with your tasks, aren't aren't reoccurring tasks just aren't really the best tasks to use specifically for budgeting. And the reason being for that is reoccurring tasks are more just used for due dates only. Anytime you do want to add a reoccurring task, that is the lower portion of your screen. You're going to click the triangle next to Add Task, click Add Reoccurring. From here, you have the ability of adding your task name. So let's just say deliverable. Okay, let's just select the task type. I'll just put miscellaneous, my status of in process. You can assign this out. So getting into our start and due dates for reoccurrings, the start date is going to reflect the first date the task is due. So let's just put that for tomorrow. And for this example, let's just say I want to have a monthly reoccurring task for the year. So from here, I got for 327, I'm going to jump all the way into 2020. Select 327 once again. And since I said I want to have it monthly, I'm going to check the monthly option. You do have, and as I check that monthly option, we do have some additional options that populated the right. So we have on the first of each month, on the final day of each month, as well as on the first, on every 1 month starting on 327. So the first and last two options are essentially the same. So I'm just going to leave that first option checked. And once you have that entered, you do have the ability of extending a task automatically. So you can extend it for 1 quarter once the series is finished, extend it 1 year, even 2 years. So there isn't really, it's not necessary to extend a reoccurring task super far out in the future because you do have the ability of extending it automatically. Okay. So once I select save, we have my deliverable towards the lower portion of our screen. And what really differentiates a reoccurring task from a normal task or even subtask is you have that the little red corner tagged. So just to show you, if we want to view the dates within our series, you can click the three dots again, select Edit Series, and within the Budget and Dates Timeline tab, if you scroll down, you can click here to view all your dates in your series. And as you can see, for a full year, we have the task reoccurring on the 1st, for the entire year. And as these are completed, you do have the ability of checking these boxes and or also marking your series completed as well as updating it. And you still have the same option of even linking these to a service item or a default class. Okay, so that's really running through the flat setup of a task, setting up a group with subtasks as well as a reoccurring task. We do have a Gantt charting feature. And just to really show you what this looks like, we have, our main flat task that you can actually extend as you move it along. And think of this as more of a visual representation of project management. So you can really just, you do have the ability of editing these dates, and as you can see, as I move them around, those dates do fluctuate. You can also actually extend these, changing your actual due date. So you can have your start and due date. And you do have the ability of actually linking one task to another. And a task that doesn't have any due or end dates, it's just going to look like this little orange diamond. So below that, we also have our reoccurring. So you can see each month the deliverable. And this is really just an on-the-fly example. I just want to show you what a proper Gantt chart will look like. And now I'm just going to jump into my A&G Consulting. So just to show you what the normal just task tab looks like for that. So I have, I have all my flat tasks. I also have my subgroups as well. So if I jump into my schedule, my Gantt charting feature, this is everything all lined out for the actual month. You do have the ability of looking at it in a day feature, a week, as well as your month. You do have the ability of auto scheduling. And what this is going to do, it's going to help you just pretty much auto schedule everything. And for me, I actually linked my tasks to one another, and this really just helps you show what task is in fact dependent on other tasks. So what can we do out of order, and also what needs to be done before we can actually move on to our next task. We do have the ability of showing and hiding a critical path. So currently I had it showing my critical path. So as you can see, when I actually do check this, it's going to show, hey, my meeting and conferences need to be completed before my report and administration, before I can move on to anything else. We do have the ability of going to today, as well as searching. Currently, we are expanded, but if I did want to collapse, what that's going to do, it will collapse my group of tasks under my foundation work. So if I click collapse, you'll just have just one flat foundation work with my other tasks rolled up into it. And you can see and differentiate the groups with the little triangle towards the left. So if I click the triangle, it's actually going to break it down a little bit further for me. You do have the ability of printing this to a PDF and printing that out. Also, you do have the functionality with the gear icon of adding additional fields. So anytime you see a gear icon within your BigTime site, so you can just further customize the screen you're looking at. So you could add any of these points within your Gantt chart. From here, you do also have the ability of actually adding a brand new task from this screen as well. So you can add your task name assigned and get into editing it as well. And that's really just a quick run through of the Gantt charting feature. In addition to that, you do have the functionality of also creating a baseline. So if you get in your Gantt chart and you say, hey, this looks great, but I really need to start editing these and moving things around just to really get into managing this project, but you also really want to know what you started with. That's when you can get into creating a baseline. That way you can reference with what you started with and also where you're at now after you made those edits. In addition to, any type of bulk action. So if I click that bulk action mark and I check the boxes next to my tasks, you do have the ability of actually linking the tasks, marking them all as complete, reassigning them, and also mass deleting them. Okay, so that is the really run through of adding tasks, adding a flat task, adding tasks and subtasks, as well as reoccurring tasks. On the client level, let's get into our workflow now. Okay, so anytime you actually want to utilize your task dashboard. Let's go to our workflow task dashboard, obviously. So from here, this is pretty much where we can view all our tasks within our BigTime site in one specific location. Um, so let's just say, for example, you acquire some new work for a client from a project that is already in process. You don't really want to update that budget of for the work you're doing. You really just don't want to jump into any task and just up the fee budget. You want to be able to track any new addition per your project. So when that does happen, you do want to just select Add Task. You do have the functionality of adding. You select your client. You have your task name, task type. You assign it out as well as entering a due date. And then you also have the enter group and add subtasks if you're getting into your groups and subtasks. Once also you have that all entered, you do have the add and edit function as well as add new, add copy. And if I click into the add edit, just add example. If I click into add edit, it's going to bring up that same formatting option of, hey, here's your general info tab, your custom fields. You do have the ability of, your budget and dates, and once again, getting into your service items, classes, and specific mixed billing options. Okay, so I'm just going to exit out of that. So just to really go over, and I guess that's adding a task from the workflow portion. Let's jump into types because I've brushed over that a little bit as we've been going on. So you go to workflow, your configure types. So just to kind of really go over what we're looking at here. So types can really be used for grouping and reporting, as well as creating a pipeline or workflow for any work currently going into your firm. And you do see some tax statuses in here. So accounting firms who use Lacert and integrate with Lacert, you will have your status codes from Lacert be imported into BigTime along with any tax return types. So that's why I added some of these examples for our CPAs out there. Okay, and getting into these different types, this really just helps if you have multiple team members working on tasks, so they can really see what stage the task is in before they jump in and start contributing work to that actual task. So anytime you want to get into adding a task type, all you need to do is select Add Task Type towards the top left-hand portion of your screen. And just I had that construction or architecture example, I'm just going to put in, for this example, a type called labor. So for my labor types, you do have the ability of actually adding additional actual codes. So before I get into adding codes, I just want to show you the different types. As you can see across the top of our screen, we have not started, in process, under review, admin, complete, and archived. And just to kind of reiterate what archived is, it's when a task enters that stage, automatically marked 100% completed, and it will be removed from your task dashboard, and also staffers will no longer be able to track a time against it. Okay, so for my field label, I select add new code. So if I want to add something maybe under not started, I would, for my labor, let's just put, for not started, let's enter pre-plan. For in process, let's put implementation. And under review, inspection. You do the functionality of adding anything under admin, complete, or archive for all of your types. And what this really will do, so if I get into having a task created and I select pre-plan, it will also fall under the not started process. So just to really show you what that looks like, or just kind of further elaborate. So my workflow task dashboard, if I click into my excavation and I go into my general info, I click my type of labor, and I pick, okay, you know what, it's inspection. I select save. So what I can do is say, okay, for my actual labor task, what in fact is actually not started or, under review. And since I have labor and I have that under review portion for inspection, that brings up that excavation task that I just selected. So my labor and inspection does correlate with one another in my types and under review or current status, excuse me. Okay, so that's how types are used. Just to really go over how to really utilize your workflow best to your advantage. It's really just really great to help filter your specific tasks out. So if you say, hey, how many consulting tasks do I have out there? How many, in fact, are not started? And what's overdue? What do I really need to make a priority? So it's just really a great way of filtering down and seeing what you need to get completed when. And also, in addition to that, how many of those are unassigned? Do I need to sign these out? Or, how many does Sam have out there, or Nancy? So if you maybe need to like reassign them for staffers, you absolutely have the ability to do so. That's one example of utilizing and filtering. If you do want to, you do also have different filtering options. So if we were to click this not started, it's going to filter out any not started tasks. You can click your in process. So this is pulling in my not started and my in process. And this is also pulling my summary by status. You can also see like what's under review. And you do have different filtering options. So this is the summary by status. You can also get into your summary by last modified date as well as summary by due date. Okay. All right, let me just refresh. I want to see all my not started. In addition to like filtering and grouping and how we want this to look, you have the ability of filtering by, grouping by task. You can group by your specific client and you group by group if you wanted to, as well as specific due dates. Um, so that you do have that functionality as well. Um, and to also get into just different options to this formatting towards the top right portion, we do have our by task. You can view it by client and also your flat view. You do have the functionality of also, I prefer by client. So you also have the functionality of typing in and searching with the search handle. So if I type in like AWC, it's going to highlight all my AWC clients, and you can also toggle up and down by using these arrows. You do have your live filter option. So not only can you search for your clients, if you click the live filter and actually click the client tab, and let's just jump back into AWC and I click apply, it's just going to pull up all my tasks pertaining to AWC. Moving down the line, anytime you see a gear icon within BigTime, so you can further customize your screen. So you can add any of these data points to your actual workflow. And you do have the functionality of exporting to PDF or Excel. This comes in handy. So, for your staffers, when you assign these out, they'll, depending on what type of security settings they have, they'll be able to come in your workflow, see what they have assigned to them, and say, hey, you know what, I'm just maybe going to print this out or throw this in an Excel sheet just so I can really stay on top of this, or just kind of keep a copy with me at all times. And then you do have the functionality of expanding to give you some more screen real estate. Okay, that's really the run through of the whole task webinar. So you do have the functionality of filtering these. One thing I actually did brush over was actually our bulk action feature. So if you were to start checking these boxes, it does bring up our bulk action feature. And what you can do is you can bulk archive, you can bulk reassign statuses, you can reassign specific people, and you can also remove assignments in addition to deleting your bulk deleting tasks. Do keep in mind, BigTime will not allow you to delete anything with time or expenses associated to it. So if you do try to delete something with time or expenses associated to it, it's going to throw an error and actually let you know that there is an expense or an invoice or time associated to it. Okay, So that is really the run through of the actual webinar. So, as you're going through this, if you do have any questions that come up, please do not hesitate to reach out to support. We are here to help. You do have the functionality of clicking your question mark icon and also selecting your live chat. So when we have support reps on live chat, it's a live instant messenger between a live individual. So, this is really helps for when you're um, working through your BigTime site, something comes up, you need to type a question in on the fly. You do have that ability. Anytime too, if you're working with tasks or in your task dashboard and something comes up, you have the functionality of using our knowledge base. So if you click the question mark and select knowledge base, it's going to take you to our website. And if you type in task, it's going to bring up any article that we have written on task. So it's just something very handy to have. And in addition to that, you always have the ability of sending an email to support@bigtime.net and also calling in to our support line. And our support phone number is 312-346-4646, option 2. And just one more time, that is 312-346-4646, option 2. At this point, I just want to thank everybody for taking time out of their day to watch this webinar. And as I mentioned, if anything does come up, please do not hesitate to reach out. We are here to help and just make your lives a little bit easier. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful day and take care. Bye-bye.